So, you're about to start Unit ACMBEH301. Perfect. Before you dive in, think of this as your essential pre-flight check. We're going to break down the 5 core principles that are the absolute foundation of professional animal handling. Nail these down now, and trust me, you'll be way ahead of the game. Let's get into it.
You know, it really all boils down to this one question. What's the big difference between an amateur and a pro? Is it about being the strongest person in the room or the most confident? Not really. The real answer is having a deliberate, repeatable process. It's a professional framework you can apply to any animal in any situation. And that's exactly what we're about to build together.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll tackle the big why this all matters so much. Then, we'll walk through each of the 5 principles: knowing your animal, reading its language, using low-stress handling, preparing for safety, and finally, reporting like a pro. And look, this isn't just a random list. This is the mental checklist a professional runs through every single time they interact with an animal. So why is this so critical? Well, because these principles aren't just about ticking a box on an exam. They are the bedrock of a safe and effective workplace for you and for the animals. Every why this matters note you see in your unit guide, it all links back to this: preventing injury and ensuring the absolute best standard of care. This is where the textbook stuff hits the real world. Okay, principle number 1, know who you're dealing with. And I don't just mean looking at a dog and saying, yep, that's a dog. I mean, what breed is it? What are its natural species-specific behaviors? And what else is going on? Think about its health, its environment, its past experiences. What's influencing its behavior right now? Every single handling decision you make flows from this first critical step. Now, a major pitfall in knowing your animal is something called anthropomorphism. It's a fancy word, but it just means we project our human emotions and thoughts onto animals. You know, thinking a dog is smiling when it's actually showing major stress signals, or that a cat is being stubborn or spiteful. And that's a huge trap, right? Because it leads you to completely misread an animal's needs and can put you in a really dangerous situation. Which brings us right to our second principle. Once you know what's normal for that species, you can start, as we say, listening with your eyes. This is all about watching an animal's physical signals, the big ones and the tiny, subtle ones, to get an accurate read on its emotional state. Are they feeling calm, anxious, excited? Their body is going to tell you everything you need to know way before their behavior gets more intense. And this is such a great way to think about how animals communicate. It's not a sudden explosion. It's more like a ladder of escalation. It often starts with really subtle signs, like a quick lip lick or a yawn when they're not tired. If that signal is missed, they might move to avoidance, like turning their head away. And only if that's ignored do you get to the really overt warnings, like freezing up or growling. The key for a professional is to recognize and respond at step 1, so you never even get close to step 3. All right, so you've identified the animal, you've read its emotional state. Now it's time to actually interact. Principle 3 is all about using smart techniques and understanding to guide an animal's behavior, not just using brute force to get things done. This is the real art of low-stress handling, where you can influence an animal to do what you need calmly and safely. A huge part of this is understanding an animal's personal space. You'll learn about concepts like the flight zone. That's the bubble around an animal where if you enter it, they'll move away. Or the point of balance, which is usually right at their shoulder. By understanding these zones, you can use your own body position to guide an animal's movement with minimal stress. You can actually get them to move forward just by entering their pressure zone in the right way, without ever having to touch them. It's all about working with their instincts, not against them. Now, before you even think about applying any of those awesome handling techniques, we have to hit principle 4. And this is a big one. Safety is never an afterthought. It's a non-negotiable step you take before any interaction begins. Your assessment of the animal, the task, the environment, all of that happens first. That is your professional responsibility. And what exactly are you preparing for? Well, these are the heavy hitters. Your unit specifically calls out obvious hazards like bites and scratches, but also things like injuries from lifting heavy animals or just simple slips and falls. And then there are the serious risks, like zoonotic diseases. Those are the ones that can pass from animals to humans. Knowing these risks is always the first step to controlling them. And this is how you control them. Personal protective equipment, your PPE, isn't one size fits all. It's all about matching the right gear to the specific task and the specific animal. So of course, gauntlet gloves for a fearful dog make total sense. But if you're cleaning, non-slip shoes and an apron are your top priority. Making the right choice here is a direct reflection of your professional judgment. Okay, we've made it to our fifth and final principle. And listen, your job is not done just because the animal is safely back in its kennel. The interaction isn't truly complete until you've documented what you saw and communicated it clearly. And how you do that is incredibly important. So here's the absolute key, the difference between subjective and objective reporting. Saying a dog was mad is a useless human interpretation, but saying he displayed piloerection, which just means his hair was standing on end, and growled, well, that gives the next handler concrete, actionable information they can use to prepare safely. This is the language of a professional. And this quote from your learning material really says it all, doesn't it? The dog seemed grumpy is not useful information. Your notes, your handover to a colleague, it all becomes part of that animal's permanent record. So you have to make it useful. You have to make it professional.
So when you put all 5 principles together, what you get is this continuous professional cycle. You observe the animal and its behavior. You prepare for a safe interaction. You apply low-stress handling techniques. You report your observations objectively, and then you repeat that cycle every single time. That is what it means to be a professional animal handler.
And that wraps up our primer. You now have the professional framework. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you see an animal, maybe it's your own pet, a dog in the park, whatever, which of these principles will you consciously practice observing first? Because that's where this all begins.